Right, going to try and knock off last night's ceremony, which was ceremony 42 for me. And some interesting things. It was a wonderful ceremony for me in many ways, or just one particular theme that was really incredible. But before that, there was some other interesting things that happened in it. Because we've lost a guest today who didn't feel comfortable for various reasons. Just deciding what to say about it. Really, not mentioning any names, so it doesn't matter. Needless to say, Colin had a good ceremony, which was really pleased about him. He was a star last night. I was so proud of him. Everybody, me and Joshua, said to him afterwards, because he, as usual, he came up very quickly, like half an hour, a bit more normal this time, and then a bit more into the ceremony before he vomited. So he got rid of the first lot, and he's quite robust, so he tends to sort of feel pretty good after his vomit. So that it's good that it's sort of gets a big chunk out, and then he's sort of settled. And I think he vomited again later, maybe after 2 hours, just before the second cup was offered, which was fantastic. Because again, for me, I didn't feel anything. I had about half a cup, I think, maybe less, just what Maestro gave me, and I drank it. And again, this is my normal situation now, it seems. I've got almost a routine, which is great, because I know where I am with it. Get back to the room, and then vomit and whatever afterwards, and still trip heavily back in the room and just have conversations with Mama about whatever. So nothing really was happening. It wasn't a very visual mix. I still don't know whether we've got the same mix. I think it's a different mix. It tastes different, and the effect's been different the last two nights, or the last two ceremonies. So last night was Friday. It's Saturday evening now. So as Ivan was guarding last night on his own, because the couple didn't come again. They're going through their own process. And me and Josh were talking this morning. We didn't think, just because stuff's been going on here, just difficult for Joshua, because obviously ended up losing a guest. So he was dealing with that this morning. We were talking, and he said because of these things going on, he was preoccupied. We never thought, and I didn't think either, because they didn't say anything before. The couple didn't say anything before, Pam and Carlos. They didn't say anything before. And we just thought they were going to come. And it got towards 8 o'clock, and the four of us were in ceremony. Maestro arrived, and then they didn't come, or they weren't there before he arrived. So Ivan went off to see where they were, and then they decided again they didn't want to do it. And but what we could have thought about before was say, look, you don't have to do ayahuasca, but you're still welcome to come into the ceremony, because you'll still get, the experience then. You'll understand the Icaros or whatever, or you'll feel them, and then see if they want it. But anyway, the upshot was they didn't come. So it was just the four of us with Ivan guarding, and we got to this offering of the second cup. So I was, fuck all's happening for me again. Got to do the second one. I know what's going to happen. And he gave me, I don't know, maybe half another cup, but I didn't drink quite all of it, because I thought there's no point. I'm going to be tripping anyway, heavily, and I thought there's no point being overly in discomfort, which is physical. And I knew I didn't really need to talk to Mama that night. It was partly a kind of independence sort of subject matter going on, about less reliance, and also about in my real life and just becoming more independent. And so I just kind of knew. I thought, she won't be talking to me for ages. I had the feeling maybe later when I'm back in the room. But this ceremony, whatever happens in it, and I was expecting it to be a tough one because of that. I thought it's going to be a test. She's going to be not there to support me. So I was just like, fine, bring it on. It's going to go through it, whatever happens. But it was actually quite mild. And it was really pleasing for me, because I felt really clean, and I felt that I wasn't gonna suffer physically. I just, when it actually got into the ceremony, some of it was powerful, but it was more, again, spiritual waves, like waves of energy. So it was a very energetic ceremony, but a bit of discomfort in my stomach, but it wasn't anything that could lead to dark vomiting. And I thought, well, it's probably just the usual. I'll shit it out when I get back to the room. Fine. No problem with that. But when the second cup got offered, I drank, and then just before it got offered, Colin vomited really heavily. And then a fucking brilliant it was. He was an absolute star. He then got offered the second cup and said, yeah, which is just great. Because, like, normally if you just vomited like that and then someone comes over to you and says, would you like another cup? You'd be like, oh, fucking hell, really? I've only just puked up the last one. And he took it. And I was like, you fucking well done, man. You star. I'm really proud of you. So that was a great moment. And Joshua congratulated him as well at the end of the ceremony. He said that was just, excellent that you did that. I was so proud of you. Because he's a great guy. I really like him. And so once the second cup was sort of on its way, again, nothing was happening for a long time into the second cup. And I thought, oh, fuck, this is going to be, I know what's going to happen here. As the Icaros get stronger and stronger, it's going to bring me up. And it's going to be late. And it's going to be another late night. No sleep till early morning. And it was an Arcana night as well to close for the weekend. And then the next unexpected thing that happened, was it before Joshua vomited the Arcana? Or maybe... No, it must have been before, because this was part of my lesson tonight. It was about a big flash of lightning there and the rain. You can probably hear the rain. So Joshua vomited like fuck. I've never heard anyone vomit like that. And I really understood what Helena went through when Ivan vomited like that, the ceremony that I didn't do, because it's disconcerting and you feel those energies of other people. And it was very much that. I was allowed myself a bit of a sort of smug grin at various points, because I just knew I wasn't going to vomit. And I was saying, wow, that shows how clean I am these days, But when Joshua vomited, because I was going through this thing, it was about sort of protection and sort of imagining developing this force field around you that, you're kind of impregnated from dark energy sort of thing. So I was going through that myself, kind of imagining, putting myself in this cocoon of protection when people started vomiting. And when Joshua did, I was thinking, fuck, man, I don't want any of that shit coming near me. It's like, put the force field around. And he really struggled to catch his breath, and he was huffing and puffing after, like, it's really strained. It was a nasty vomit, like very, very deep and very long. Couldn't catch the breath, and of course everyone's feeling it. Colin said, that energy when he was vomiting, it really put an atmosphere, because even Colin could feel it as a new guy, because it was that strong. And the Icaros were spiritual energy strong last night, like the stone head kind of, but waves of energy, and it's like, oh fuck, right between my temples when they came in waves. It's like, oh, that's heavy. I mean, I've experienced it before in different ways, and not as worse as I've ever had, but it was still, oof, yeah, that's some powerful energies coming in with these Icaros. Because Maestro had said before the ceremony, he said, we're going to be cleaning tonight. We're going to be cleaning your body and cleaning your spirit. So I kind of knew there'd be those components, but I didn't get the bodily cleaning, because I'm clean relatively. But it doesn't mean to say the next ceremony it couldn't be another heavy one, where you do get physical. You just don't know. They're different every time. Depends what energies are coming in, and etc. So anyway, after Joshua did this vomit, that took a while for things to settle down energy-wise, and people were like, ooh. Of course, I'm always thinking of the new guys, how it's affecting them, if they feel it like me. Because although I feel it, I've got the experience that it doesn't faze me. I know what it is. but you still think, well, I don't, whatever's coming out of him, keep it away from me, man. So I had this kind of imaginary cocoon around me of my own energy. And then that's when it got interesting again, because we came to the end of the ceremony, toward the end, and the tubular bells started. And again, there was a heavy spiritual energy component with them. And normally they're really relaxing, well, they can be, but whatever Maestro was doing this time, I felt really uncomfortable in my stomach. Again, not a vomity one, but just something there, like, oh, there's a bit of dark energy inside me that doesn't like that, and I can feel it doesn't like it. Because these tubular bells, when they're spinning, it was like, oh, yeah, that's actually uncomfortable. These bells are actually a cleansing instrument, with the energies that are brought to bear as well. I thought, oh, for about half of that, the bell ceremony, I was like, oh, and then I moved back onto because I was on my side, and I moved back onto my back, thinking, oh, yeah, so get a different position, and then it became nice again. I was kind of they were bouncing around and doing their stereo thing, and then it was a bit more relaxing after that. I thought that, because these bells, these sonic sounds, you really get the idea that these pure kind of metallic sounds, beautiful bell tones, they're driving dark energy out. Dark energy doesn't like it. It's like those spiritual instruments. Like I've said before, Buddhists and bells and little gongs and things like that. It made sense to me that they're actually part of that process, is to keep dark energy away and for cleansing, spiritual cleansing, this kind of thing. So that was interesting. And then it came time for the arcanas. And I was first again, because it's just the way direction it goes around the room. I'm always by the door, first in the line, and had my arcana. So that was no different there. It was just a normal nice arcana, just the spiritual protection, cleaning, and then putting the shield around you for the closing for the weekend. And then he moved on to Colin, and Colin was fine. Said he enjoyed it, and then it was odd, because I was both lying down, and then he moved on to the other guest who's now left, and there was something not right going, and he'd sat up, and in the light of the candle, or Ivan then going over with his torch, or just a cellular phone, because they're quite dim. They're good in ceremony light. For ceremony lights, the phone is pretty good because it's not too glary and it's diffuse. And obviously the guest didn't understand Spanish, and Maestro just saying, I want you to sit up and blah, blah, blah. And all we saw was this reaction. He'd sat up, and then he had his hand out. He's a really tall guy, 6'7", and he just had his hand out. And I thought he was saying that something about the agua florida, because some people don't like it. Joshua doesn't like it. I love it personally, but I hate the wood burning, which is Palo Santo. When that burns, that's a cleaning, bit like Mapacho for cleaning energy, but I hate it. It smells sickly as fuck to me, and it clogs I can't breathe with it. I hate it, because Joshua had lit it. He got to the Maloka first on that night, and I walked in and he lit it, and it's like, oh, and then it was getting stronger, and this is before the ceremony, and I said, do you mind? I said, I can't breathe with that stuff. He said, oh, yeah, no problem. Sorry, I didn't realise. I said, no, it's just I've always hated that stuff. Especially when you're on IR, it's even worse than I've been in ceremonies where it's been lit as a cleaning, and it's horrible. It just makes me want to vomit. But it's sickly and but it's the breathing thing I can't stand. It really does. I can't catch my breath. It's just, on IR, or just without IR, it's horrible. So anyway, the guest had a real issue with Maestro, and it turned out, and in the light, then Josh was sat up, and he was sat on the end of the bed, kind of wondering, trying to take in and help, wondering what was going on, but I didn't quite get it, because I thought it was just something to do with maybe he was that ill, he didn't want to sit up for the Arcana, which is fine, because you can still do it, Maestro can still do it lying down. But I thought, maybe it's just the agua florida. But it wasn't. Joshua told me this morning that it was to do with Maestro himself. because this guest has only had one previous ceremony before he came here, and that was with a female shaman, and obviously he felt it went well. And of course, this is part of expectations. If you have your first ceremonies, then everything else is referenced to that. And if something changes that you're not expecting, well, he must have known. He would have been told in the video chats that, yeah, we have a male shaman, and if you don't know any different, but obviously there's a big difference between male and female energy, same as there is with male and female shamans. They are strong, and they fucking can be forceful, and they clean you. And if you're not used to that, or you're particularly sensitive to male energy, I've always just got on with it. It's just always thought, whatever happens is part of the ceremony, and you just, from very early days, it's just, you've got to get through it. And Colin's a bit more robust in that respect. Most people are. But some people you have to. This is, as I was saying before, the complications that go with people's baggage and past trauma and what their sensitivities are, this sort of thing. So anyway, the upshot of it was this caused like a bit of a stagnation for a minute. Didn't really know quite what was going on at the time until he told me this morning. And then he said, and he's leaving today. I was like, what? Wow. And of course that's devastating for Joshua, because to have a guest, a big cockroach running across the floor, to have a guest leave, because Joshua's so caring and he wants to provide a service where everyone can be happy. And of course I'm just thinking, it's not going to, you can't be like that. And we've had conversations about sometimes people get sacrificed. It's just impossible. You're always going to come across a small percentage of people where it's just not for them in this particular environment. As beautiful as the retreat is, and as caring as everybody is, and it is the most caring retreat. That's why I've come back here, because they're lovely people. But it still may not be right for some, and that's just the way it goes. And you cannot fret about it. So he gave him his a week's money back and everything, and he got him the boat and got him to Indiana and got the bus, and he was deciding to take a plane tonight just to get back. But from a personal point of view, right from the start, and I'm on a dieta as well, so I'm sensitive to people's energy, and he was a problem for me, not as a person because he's a lovely guy, but the blocking, because I've got this intuition about, because of experience and where I am in my training, and I feel uncomfortable. It's not super uncomfortable, but like I said before, I can feel people at distance if their energies are clashing with mine. And I think I can honestly say now it's not me. I mean, they might feel the same thing because of me, because I'm so clean relative to them and they're dirty. That, this is a possibility. But from my perspective, I'm pretty convinced it's the dirt they bring with them. That's why I can feel it. And also about their personal energy that is part of that. It's not just about the dirt they bring with them, because everybody brings dirt a lot, but they don't necessarily make me feel uncomfortable. And so now that he's actually gone, as soon as he went, I've got to be honest, I was thinking to myself, well, there's a lot of benefit to this. I feel better about it. But I was thinking that there may have been partly why Pamela and Carlos haven't done the first now 3 ceremonies. They missed the first one because they were late, but they didn't do Wednesdays and they didn't do Fridays. And obviously all we'd ever been is sitting around together. And this is a problem with people don't all start at the same time as equals. At the beginning of the week when nobody knows each other and you're just getting to know each other, it's a level playing field. But when people come late, they might think, oh, these people are already talking socially and they know each other a little bit, and that can maybe make them feel uncomfortable. There's loads of reasons, unless you actually talk to them and find out, which we haven't at this stage. But anyway, my personal view is that may have been something to do with that guest too. But I don't know. But I'm just saying I can only say what my own opinions are at the end of the day. It's not a reflection of people or character. It's just the way the energies work. So now, and I did talk to them this morning, and said to them that both me and Joshua had forgotten. We only thought, we never thought to offer, look, if you're feeling uncomfortable, you don't have to do ayahuasca. You can still come into the ceremony and just enjoy the Icaros, or just go through the Icaros, so that you do get some cleaning and it's not powerful, and you can just sort of keep it at that level, because you will get a bit of cleaning, but you'll also get familiar with Maestro without having it full on in the ceremony if you're a bit unsure about that. But we'll see. But all Pam said was, but we're going through our own process. And I said, well, that's fine. I said, in that case, obviously, to go with your intuition about what you need to do always. I said, but we just wanted to know that you're welcome anytime, and we'd love to see you in there. So if you do feel you want to come, because you can still experience the ceremony without having to do ayahuasca, and just enjoy and get familiar with the environment, and so that if future ones where you decide you want to do ayahuasca, you'll feel a bit more local to the environment. So anyway, I'm hoping that they'll come in on Monday. But we've also got a new guest coming from America too, and Ivan told me tonight on the boat, because we went to the beach, that I can't remember exactly whether he has previous experience or not, but anyway, he's an American guy. But anyway, so that, as far as that went, the actual ceremony was interesting. And then the really fantastic part was when I just had a great experience, really wonderful. Mama did start to talk to me later, after I'd gone through these self-imposed kind of independence and feeling clean, and just going, this is training for not needing direct link with Mama, and anything that happens, I've just got to get through it on my own. And try, even if it's bad, just try. But I got through it no problem up to that point. So finally, after the bells, and we had the Arcana, ceremonies comes to a close, but now I'm pretty coming up now. It's coming on strong for me, like 3 hours or so. It's really only just starting for me, as it has been recently. So I was really tripping, but I was okay. I didn't feel too bad. I could sit up and I could walk reasonably well, but Colin was dead straight, because I said, we had a good chat just briefly at the end, and I said, how's your feet tonight? And he said, yeah, I can walk, no problem. I said, oh great, I'll grab your arm then, because he's next to me in the room, save Ivan coming down. And so we had a usual little good chat on the way back, and I told him about my vision. He went, wow, man, fucking hell, that sounds amazing. I said, it was just incredible. I said, Mama gave me this new gift in ceremony, and it was along exactly the same lines. She was saying to me about this ball, this protection against dark energy. You can just ignite it. It's a spiritual flame, and you just ignite it. So I just came in this, it was like on my arms. I was just kind of sitting in space in the vision, like cross-legged in space. It wasn't space because there weren't stars, but it was just a darkness with me just sitting. And she just said, just think, but turn it on. Boof. And I just went up in this spiritual flame. And it was incredible, because it was slightly pink and very light blue, pure gas flame, but spiritual energy. And then it went into white, like a white aura of spiritual flame, and it was just like an egg shape around me, just an egg. I'm sitting inside this egg of spiritual fire. And she said, you can use it as a light. And I put my hand out like a beam of light coming out of my hand, like a torch. And then what I perceived as like this boundary of, say, like the edge of a black dark forest, that was like a perimeter where dark energy is coming to attack a bastion of spirituality, and they're just sitting encamped around this, where I am, as like almost a guard. It wasn't anything behind me, but that's irrelevant. It's just like I was this kind of guard, like a guardian of this spiritual warrior guard. And then I just shone this light, and it was illuminating little demonic kind of dark energy entities and stuff, and their kind of eyes were reflecting back like hyenas in this light. And as I moved it across, like some bigger one, it's sort of that the attack of the orcs in Lord of the Rings, but it was spiritual kind of entities, dark, monstery kind of things. And there was this weird looking one, sort of half kind of long, but bigger than the rest, and that was just coming forward. And as it came forward, she said, they cannot, if they come near this flame, they are just completely destroyed, like they just evaporate. And as this thing was kind of coming, it was still quite a distance away, and she said you can use it as a defensive weapon, not just the light. And I was just going just to this one big thing. I just went like that, and it just exploded, like not an explosion, but just like decimated, just poof, like that. And it was just amazing. And then when I was just sat in this thing, she said anything that comes in and touches this spiritual light is just completely destroyed. And when I was actually then sat in it, in this bubble, this ball of this egg shape of energy protection, I felt it was just this feeling of tranquility and complete peace, just completely untouchable from anything negative. And then she said, it kind of changed then to, she said, think of the worst kind of scariest thing that you've imagined in your past or whatever. And I thought of the alien from the Alien films. So this thing appeared in front of me, the alien, exactly as in the Alien film. It was just coming towards me. And as it got close, of course, it's pretty big. She just said, I just knew. And it was just like, just project that power. And it was just gone, like a top level demonic thing, And it was just wonderful experience. And then she said, anytime you could, and I've been thinking about it all day. It's like I still feel that all I have to do is think of that. And I just imagine myself just enveloped in this spiritual flame, feeling invincible. It's weird, man, but it's wonderful. And in the vision, it was just such a wonderful experience. So that was just really what it was about. We got into the usual chats, but there wasn't really much to need to talk about. We went over a bit of the last thing. One thing that was interesting as well was in a previous video, I think I said that she showed me, she was talking about because of who you are, before she then explained it in a later one. And in that ceremony, I saw myself, but from the outside. I think it said it's like a spiritual landscape, but there was a sword, but I could also see myself, and I had this egg shape around me from a distance. I was seeing myself from a distance, like walking through this dark space with like a battlescape. So I'd already seen that, but then she shows, ceremony's on, she extends the story and shows you this vision of actually being able to manifest it, being clean enough now. And she said, I'm giving you this gift now because you're ready. Because after that last heavy conversation, with what I was really doing there as well, was cleaning something out of you to make you clean enough to be able to receive this gift. Isn't it wonderful? Because, so you're now ready for that gift, because it's about, you're just getting little things that you pick up. You go through your cleaning, lots of ceremonies, and then you get something really special. So it was just a wonderful, really wonderful experience. And then when I got back, or when I was back here, these conversations, it was even difficult to throw up. There was something stuck, but it wasn't heavy. It turned out to be wind, actually, but I still came back and vomited. Stuck my fingers down my throat. That was difficult, and she's still talking. Just, come on, you've got to get that something out, because it's stuck. There's dark energy stuck in that ayahuasca. And it was really hard, just because I didn't feel like puking, and I just had to keep sticking my fingers down my throat. And then the bile started to come, and then eventually more came, but it was hard. And also because I was tripping in the light of the toilet, there was all this kind of slime in a bit of a shadow in the bottom of the toilet, and it looked a bit like an insect was stuck in the toilet. And as the more I puked, it kind of grew and it changed into this spider. And it actually looked like a real spider in the toilet. And Mum was saying, just showing you that as like in your real vision, there's just a representation of the dark energy. And when I moved my head out of the light, it was just sort of like bile and slime and sticky stuff, but it just made this sort of dead spider sort of drown below the surface. And then when I moved out of the light, it was just what it was on the surface of the toilet. But yeah, I was still tripping really heavily, for a while. And I thought, oh, fuck, it's going to be a long night. But it wasn't so bad. I was relaxed enough, and but I don't know. I still kind of lots of huffing and puffing, and like you do. And then I had to go and drink more water. I ate my apple too, and to try and shift this discomfort in my stomach. Went and sat on the bog, but there was nothing there except wind. Really, there was no fucking diarrhea or anything. So it was just a really pleasant ceremony in many respects, and of course I felt really good because of the fact that I was the only one that hadn't vomited, when everyone else vomited a lot and struggled a little bit. Except that they did really well. It's just a real shame about Alan that whatever level of discomfort. I don't mean just ire. He was right in retrospect. He seemed he was very private person generally, but he had started to open up. I said, but whatever he was going through last night when Maestro came over to him, he didn't want Maestro near him. He just didn't want any more of whatever's energy that he couldn't handle. But I mean, he was straight enough to get up and walk on his own at the end of the ceremony. So, but he did vomit. But he just really weird when Maestro came close to him for that Arcana, he didn't want it. And I was thinking at the time, that's because I didn't know he was going to leave. So I was still thinking, well, part of Maestro's this ceremony is about closing you for the weekend. So I mean, I'm sure Maestro's got his other techniques that he can use, because obviously you can do an Arcana at a distance, but ideally, because he does things like he finds in the dark, he finds the crown of your head at the back, but then moves his finger like to a particular point that's not on the crown. It's about here, and he presses. You can feel his hand. Then with one finger, he presses quite hard, as he's muttering a prayer and blowing the patch around your head, just for a few seconds. Like whether it's a acupuncture point or what it is, I don't know, or some other spiritual point. I have no idea. So it was just thinking, how's he gonna do that? But anyway, he must have closed him some way, because as it turned out, he told Joshua that he'd been looking at flights and he just wanted to leave. I mean, there could be other reasons too. You don't know. He might decide that I'm not getting what I want here, so I may as well get some money back, or what. You just don't know. But obviously, it was a big deal for Joshua, because he's just hoping that he doesn't get left a bad review, because that would be devastating for him, for what he does for people. And as I can testify, and if people watch this, and that's why I'm here. It's the best one. They care. So even if someone writes a bad review for this place, please don't let it cloud your judgment, because these things do happen for some people. It's impossible for any retreat to cater, and with my experiences, most of them don't give a fuck, especially not to the same degree. And especially if it was just local shamans running it, you can forget it. You'd never get your money back. You could complain all you want. They'd just be like, fuck off, gringo. There's nothing you can do. Go to the police. Who gives a fuck? You won't get anywhere. And they wouldn't care. The bigger retreats have probably got policies and they probably cater for you. But as far as genuine caring, this is the best one I've ever been at. So, if you do read reviews, a review from any past guest here, try and balance it with the other ones and what I've said, because I've got a lot of experience. It was my 42nd ceremony last night. I've done San Pedro. I've been doing this with only a 10-month integration break back in the UK. So I'm coming up for 2 years before I arrived in Peru, and I've done all that ayahuasca, 41 ceremonies now, 10 months total time in Peru alone, and I've done San Pedro and Aya in Ecuador, and I've done Aya and magic mushrooms in Colombia. So it's about six different places, and that's why there's only been the ones that the three that I'd recommend. One was Casa del Sol in Ecuador, this one, and Nancy at Flower of Life in Nauta, which is 2 hours away from Iquitos. They were the only ones that were just really nice places to be, caring, really well looked after. They want to cater for you. The rest, they did good jobs in many ways, but as I've said before, there were things that I know were going on in the background there that either shouldn't have happened, or there's a non-caring aspect to them, or there's actual forms of corruption, even on there's a manipulation mind level with the people who are the shamans at one particular retreat. You probably know, so I've probably mentioned it loads of times, but I don't like to badmouth people because but I have to tell the truth. These are my videos. They're my video diary of my experiences as I've perceived them. And people always need to take that into account, and always remember that the decision is yours and you need to do your research. That's on you. Either recommendation that you do want to take on board, and of course, as Colin is testament now, because he came here specifically feeling okay about the research he'd done, looking up Light of Shipibo, and then he saw my video, and that was a big step toward making the decision to come here. And he's doing fantastically, and I'm sure he's got, he's suffering, missing his family. His wife's on his own with the baby, first time sort of being alone, and he wants to just go back and help with a 6-month-old boy. But he knows, and he's got the strength of character. He knows, and we've reiterated it to him. Sometimes he was almost on the verge of getting a plane back just purely for his familial circumstances, nothing to do with the retreat, but just to support his wife. But he got through that, and he said, look, then the second week, I said to him, please, I've seen the improvement in you after the second ceremony. You're so much calmer, so much more relaxed, and he's having generally really good experiences, and it's helping him so much. So now he's got 3 under his belt, and we start again next week. And I know he'll go back with so many benefits when you complete that second week. It's a big thing, So now hopefully, depending what happens on Monday with the new guy, but at least there's now a room vacant, so there's space anyway, without him having to go and live in the jungle, Tambo, because that would put anyone off, I think, at the moment. Because that's why I haven't gone there. I would I would do it if it was necessary, because I'd just do it. Because that's just just the way I accept my responsibility in that respect, because I can handle it. But especially it's pissing down with rain now, so I don't. It's a good, I don't know, 100 meters or so in the jungle, and there's outside toilet. And at the end of the day, I'm a paying guest as well. And this is my last retreat for the moment, because I'm going to be looking now, going back to visit Robbo in Brazil. And after talking to Joshua about that way, that I think I said it in the other ones, you can't bank on what visa I might get, even if I disappear for 24 hours and come back in. Doesn't necessarily mean that they will give you the remainder of half the 183 days. So you might not get the 3 months, so it might only be a month, whatever, in which case, I don't know. And I have been through moods of just thinking, because especially what went on, there were other things that went on, which I'm just reminding myself about, because I made a mistake too. Um, but hopefully that will come out in the wash. Again, I was tripped with my big mouth, and Joshua said something to me in confidence, and it slipped out, and it caused a problem. I had to go and talk to him and tell him what had happened, and he was like, I'll have to think about how I'm going to handle it. But he's under a lot of pressure. He's trying to do such an exceptional job here, um, and it's not easy to run a retreat, and it isn't easy dealing with, as in facilitator roles, dealing with people who, in a very short space of time, straight into ayahuasca, when you haven't had a chance to really get to know the extent of their traumas and how it's affecting them. And then, of course, the whole spiritual side, because who knows what anyone else experiences on ayahuasca? You can only talk about it amongst yourselves of what your experiences were and see what parallels there are. But you don't know how spiritual energies affect people, the same as some people who can see ghosts, as I've said before. They've got a particular gift, they've got a particular sensitivity, and if you don't, how can you relate to it? So how do you just don't know what people experience, in the whole show, really, because you've got those four components. It's a big deal. um, and it changes. All energies are in a continuous state of flux. So what might be all right one day is now turned to shit the next day, and then it would come good again. But if it's affected someone that bad that they just need to get away, and then because of that event, I felt like that for a day. I thought started making me thinking, yeah, this place isn't really for me long term. From a healing point of view, yeah, I will come back, but I'm thinking as far as just even my ADD brain kind of, it's been 3 months now that I've been here, but yeah, nearly 3 months, 2 weeks short, 3 months, just under. Um, Thinking, yeah, I need a break. And today I don't feel like that. I've just had a beautiful evening. Um, I didn't go to the beach the other day, and I've not been there before. It's the island just over the other side, a big mud island. It's got a village on it, a really big village. People, locals grow fruit there and everything. But there's a really lovely sandy part that's black soil, rich, absolutely fertile Amazon soil that washes up. So we went over there, and it was a lovely evening. I went for a swim in the Amazons. That was a first. So that was lovely. Just body temperature. It's just, it was only like 2 feet deep because the current's pretty strong. So you're, even swimming against the current, you're not going anywhere. And just sitting on the sand in about 2 feet of water, you're just getting pushed along slowly. But it was just really pleasant. And then walking around talking to Lenny, who I really like. He's the motor taxister, and he he does all the building work here, and he's an exceptional builder. And then of course we got chatting about Nancy, and he said, "Oh, Nancy Lupe." I said, "Oh, I can't remember what her last name was." He said, "Yeah." He said, "I did work on her Maloka." I said, "Oh, or rather in her property." He said, "Yeah, she's a lovely person." And so he said, "Oh, way back, even 20 years ago." So she's must have been involved in that for a long time. At Flower of Life, which is, as I just said, that's the other retreat I recommend, because Nancy's a lovely person. She's got fantastic property. It's beautiful there on the Maranhão River. So just really nice evening. And then the couple came with us. Pam and Carlos were on the boat with us, and they sat just sitting on a blanket type of thing on the other side. And they're a nice couple. They're I don't know whether they're quite new or what, or whether her kids are his. I don't know yet. So they seem really well in love, So they're just sitting on their own, arm in arm and whatnot, and enjoying the lovely river view of the Amazon as it splits around this island, both sides. It's just really nice. So really nice evening, and then the sun going down and the colours reflecting on the Amazon and stuff. I didn't take my camera, my phone, unfortunately, but at least I had changed and put swimming shorts on, So I thought, oh great, I've only got a t-shirt. Fuck it, I will go in. And then it was so warm and just nice, and just it's a slow gradient, and then just managed to have a bit of a swim. I thought, and I did feel really good after. So I'm gonna have to start swimming again. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. And depending on how Colin feels tomorrow, what he's doing, I'll ask him if he wants to do just a quick update after his second and third ceremonies, just for the record, so you can see how far he's come, because it's really good. He's doing well, and he's getting a lot out of it, so it's great.